fast speech done gone inside the gutter. Knock off when you open your mouth. Discrimination in entertainment, and you're talking about one Guyana. When the Ministry of Culture keep the big shows, one set of girls and banner. Cause I done fed up, you done fed up, he done fed up, she done fed up, we done fed up, the people fed up. You're hiding corruption inside the cup, look how evil set up. The people fed up. Every picture you take and promise you make, everything you do is about clouds. Then you come into me for I shake your hand, there's nothing to smile about. Corruption inside every sector, but when it comes to them they send you. Try investigate efficiency, right? Go talk to Barrett and Sue. Cause I done fed up, you done fed up, he done fed up, she done fed up, we done fed up, the people fed up. You're hiding corruption inside the cup, look how evil set up. The people fed up. I done fed up of the dirty water, low pressure, want scream and tell somebody. Imagine 1500 US and they're telling me super salary. I done fed up of the unemployment racism and the lie they say one Guyana. Cause when you look with the oil money going, circulate with one set of banner. Cause I done fed up, you done fed up, he done fed up, she done fed up, we done fed up, the people fed up. You're hiding corruption inside the cup, look how evil set up.
There and fabricate that. Unless you say who the person is, I can't comment on anonymous people.
Okay, well, let's talk about specific individuals. What is your relationship with Mr. Su Jurong?
Su? Oh, Su.
Hawk?
There and fabricate that. Unless you say who the person is, I can't comment on anonymous people.
Okay, well, let's talk about specific individuals. What is your relationship with Mr. Su Jurong?
Su? Oh, Su.
Yeah, my name is Jasmine Caldata Francis Vietnam, and since 1965 I become a voter, and I always place my ex next to the cop, and what they are doing today, I can't take it. So I have no more vote to give to PPP anymore. I'm not going to vote anymore no more. If they have to lose by one vote, they're losing it by data. I have none.
Oh, Jesus Christ, if cost of living double, I don't know what happened. A pound of sugar is $300 already. Flour, everything gone up. Everything just raising. You gotta get about $40,000 for buy good ration. You gotta get 3 man now. A weekend man, a monthly man, and a fortnight man.
How we gonna do a body man walk right now? You ready? Fuck, let me go now. Hear me sing now. Body walk, body walk, body walk, everything. Body walk, truck, body walk, body walk, body walk, everything. Body, listen. Body jump, body jump, body jump, everything. Body jump, body jump, body jump, body jump, everything. Hear me sing, so big body can't wear it tight pants, big body jump.
Good night. Welcome to Straight Up. Hey, where are we going to start right off the bat? While you share the link and you call your friends and you let them know that we're on right here on 107.1 FM. We're going to rock and roll. Lots of things to talk about. Lots and lots of things to talk about. Let's begin with right off the bat. Elections, according to the corrupt PPP regime, and you know we oftentimes start off with a corrupt PPP regime. They love to rig elections. They rigged the 2020 elections and they want to put the blame on these folks. These folks, there's no evidence pointing in their direction that they did anything. There is no evidence, absolutely no evidence. And it is something that the opposition whether it is the AFC, the APNU, or is there an APN? Sorry, PNCR, whatever happened to the other small parties that were part and parcel of the coalition. There was the Justice for All Party. There was National Front Alliance. All these other parties, whatever happened to them? All of them disappeared. We don't know what's happening, but we need fighters. We need people who can stand up and say, hey, enough is enough. Because you cannot, for 4 years, over 4 years, you cannot be persecuting these people. It just cannot happen. It is totally unacceptable. And look, what else is happening? By the way, thank you so much, Lemon, our operator. Just signaled to me that, guess who is on with us tonight? We didn't advertise it or anything, but Tom Anderson. For a moment, I know you thought it was this guy, right? Detective Sergeant Bascom, the whistleblower, the guy who blew the whistle and exposed corruption in the Guyana police force, that they were covering up a murder case. The police force, they haven't stopped. They're still covering up murder cases. They're covering up abduction cases. All these things they're covering up. A case just the other day, Alexander, this former policeman, was abducted in the village of, sorry about that. He was abducted. Some of you guys can, you know that village, right? We know the village. We'll get to that. And he was taken into Buxton, and we are hearing reports that he was killed. The police force is covering up this situation. Not only is the police force covering up this here, Hicken was given information. Hicken is now claiming that if he were to pursue with those people that he supposedly arrested in the beginning, that they have sent him lawyers' letters and all that. So Hicken has not been telling the family members the truth. And Jagdeo, we're told, instructed Hicken not to pursue with this matter. Something, I don't know, something is obviously fishy about this entire situation. Something is definitely fishy. If you guys see any trench crappos in the audience, just we have a signal now. Just put some crappos up there so we will know that trench crappos are there. Trench crappos. Just put some frogs there. Thomas Anderson's political power portrait. He's saying good night to all of you. Good night to Tom Anderson. Tom, how are you doing, sir?
Great. How's everyone doing tonight? Hey, Mark, great to be on, man. How's everybody?
People are all fired up. People, early voting, all these sort of things. Early voting in New York, early voting in other parts of the country, some other parts of the country, and large turnouts, Tom. How are you looking at those turnouts as of now?
Yeah, I mean, it's massive for early voting. And I think the percentages now are something like a 65-35 split. 65% of the early voters are voting for Kamala Harris, 35% for Donald Trump. So it's massive. It's something. It's a sight to see. It's really a sight to see.
A sight to see, but don't let your guards down, guys. Keep on going out. Early voting, it's so important. You've got to go. Don't wait until the last minute, and then you have to get a long line. Don't go to the last minute. Do it now. Go out and vote. You don't want to blow away. You don't want anything to blow away. Past tense, blew away. Just blew. Get in the line and do whatever you got to do. Do whatever you got to do. Tom, lots of things happening in Guyana, but hey, I tell you, lots of things happening in the United States of America as we're preparing for presidential elections and other elections. Talk to us a little bit. We're hearing today that there's just a 1-point lead according to the polls. One of the polls there Kamala Harris, Vice President Kamala Harris, has a 1-point lead. What's going on? Talk to us a little bit about that.
Yeah, I mean, it's a tight race. So the bottom line is in the United States, and we've got our issues. Like I've told everyone, Guyana seems like it's rough, and it is, but America, we've had our issues too, and so we are split down the middle. No matter what was going to happen this year, it was going to be a tight race. It was going to come down to 1 point or two. It's going to come down to a handful of states. That's just our system, and that's what we've got, and we call it gridlock. But the reality is, and everyone thinks gridlock is everyone's fighting with each other and no one wants to give in. And it's really the case that instead of us being like caught together, we're just really far apart. And so the two sides are so far apart and so disagreeable. Like the two sides politically right now here, there is nothing to agree on whatsoever. And so because of that, there's just no middle ground. And so it's a tight race. And that's why what it's going to come down to is the ground game. It's going to come down to people like us, your listeners, your viewers, who are voters, who are watching, who may be in New York, even if you're in New York, vote, who may be in Florida. It's going to be huge in Florida. Pennsylvania, anyone that's watching right now in Pennsylvania, your vote is going to be huge. That seems to be the state that everyone is putting their money on on both sides. So it's a big deal. And whatever happens, the results here is going to have a huge impact on Guyana. And let me explain why. Of course, people know why generally, but let's just talk specifically and importantly for something that's happening right now. So people may have been seeing in the news lately that the Trump people had this huge rally at Madison Square Garden. And at the rally, they had a comedian who called the people of Puerto Rico trash, a floating island of trash in the middle of the ocean. Okay, that has caused massive problems for the Trump campaign. But let me explain to the people who are watching now, the people in Guyana, how this affects them. The people of Puerto Rico are American citizens. They are, okay? They are treated by Donald Trump as if they are foreigners. When they got hit with a hurricane when Trump was president, he refused to sign legislation to get them emergency money, to get them help. Hundreds of people died that didn't need to die. He basically left the island to die after a hurricane. American citizens. So you have to understand, if you're in Guyana, if you have family in Guyana, you have to understand that if Trump wins, if he treats American citizens this way in Puerto Rico, and he has comedians calling American citizens a floating island of trash, what do you think he's going to think about the people of Guyana? Be honest with yourself. Even if you're PPP, you have to be honest, and you have to say, wait a minute, if this guy has comedians calling American citizens floating trash in the ocean and won't get them money after a hurricane, do you think he's going to do anything good for the nation of Guyana? It's absolutely impossible. The man, if he wins, will hurt Guyana in ways no one can understand. So it's a big deal what happens in our elections here.
A big deal indeed. Tom, I don't know. Can I share just throw some paper towel at you?
That's what he said to people in Puerto Rico, a bunch of paper towels.
Just throw some paper towel at them. That's all.
It's wild stuff. And here's what's crazy. And they do this right before, a week before the election. They need Pennsylvania. There are so many Puerto Rican voters in Pennsylvania. It just goes to show
there's so many Puerto Rican voters in New York and lots of other places. But
everywhere. Florida. Yeah. We have 1 million here in Florida. And so this is huge, but it just goes to show, if this is how he treats a pivotal voting bloc that he needs, who are American citizens, he will treat the people of Guyana like worse than trash. Okay, and it's guaranteed.
And is it the anchor person, one of the hosts there at CNN, had to cut one of those guys off, cut them completely off, and said, "This is unacceptable. This is un-American. This is not how we have a discussion." And kudos to her. What's her name? Abby, is it?
Yeah, Abby. Yeah,
Kudos
right.
to her for
Big time.
doing just that. These
That's right.
reporters, these moderators, and these television hosts, whether it's CNN, they need to cut more of those lunatics off, completely off. It is not freedom of speech; it is hate speech. They need to be cut off. So,
Well, you
kudos
know
to
what,
her.
Mark? Here's the thing. So I believe that regimes like the PPP, they view the actions of these Trump people and it gives them confidence. It makes them feel like they can abuse their own people and get away with it.
Yep.
Because over in America, look what they do to their people. And
But
so
not
that's
only
the problem.
Not only that, Tom, and you are correct. Some are convicted. Some are accused of fraud. Some are sanctioned and all these things. And because Trump, who has been convicted, who is a felon, not a 1 time, 2 time, 3 times, 34 felony convictions. So the folks in Guyana, like the little rattlesnakes with 19 fraud charges and those who are sanctioned, they walk around and saying, well, if Trump can have all those convictions, well, what about us? What about us little minions in Guyana there? They feel that if Trump can run for president, regardless of allegations of sexual molestation, whatever it is, and all of the convictions, they feel that what the heck, they can do it too. But never before, though, in the history of America, this has ever happened, that you have a president who has been convicted, 34 convictions, is running for president of the United States of America, and the race is so close. Never. Could you at some point in time in your life imagine that this would have ever been a reality, Tom?
Well, I could, and unfortunately, and here's why. Because the reality on the ground in the United States is we have a large population of people who believe in this type of stuff that Trump is pushing. Now, a lot of them are old and they're from a time long ago, okay? And they're going to be moving on here soon in this world to another place later on, heaven, wherever they're going to go. But until they leave, they're still here. And that's his bulk of support. These really, I'll tell you what it is, really super old white guys. I hate to say it, but that's his bulk of support. Now, it's all white guys mainly, but the really old ones, he's got like 90% of those guys. And there are so many of them. And let me just tell you, they're from a time where these men would abuse women. They would take advantage of women in the workplace. They would hurt people. They would have the cops hurt innocent black people. I mean, these are the people that back in the 60s, these white guys who are old now, they were young and they were like cops sicking dogs on black people who were marching for their rights to vote. And so I'm a little bit not surprised, because this is sort of that group's last chance to try to get America to stay the way they tried to make it, which is a very, very sad and dark place. But with that said, hopefully enough people can see through this, and hopefully enough of our new immigrants who are first generation immigrants who may not have voted before, or who may feel like, oh, voting's not a big deal, get out there and vote. It's huge, okay? Because this election is the election to finally, once and for all, to get rid of these psycho crazies who are holding on for dear life here and trying to maintain their grasp on power in the whole Western world. So it's a good thing these guys are going. They're not gone yet. As soon as they go, we'll see regimes like the PPP also not be around, because they are the one. Because let me just tell you, the PPP, their backing is coming from these old racist white guys. I'm just letting you know. So that's why it's not surprising to me. But man, I cannot wait for these guys to go. And it's time that we vote. We vote now to make them go quicker.
Thank you. Vote now. We vote now to make them go quicker. Annette Cummings is saying, old poisoning white men still corrupting America. Tom, you seem to be on to something here. Those of you, remember early voting. You've got to go out. You've got to vote, because you cannot live under such threat. Somebody who occupies the Oval Office is threatening you, threatening your families. And some of you who are in the audience might not understand exactly how important this elections is. Because if you don't, those of you who can vote, if you don't go out and vote, do not complain after. Do not say that some family members are being rounded up and deported and sent back, just like the Japanese during the which one of the war, the First World War and so forth and so on, and others who were rounded up and sent back and treated like low-class citizens in the United States of America. Do not have history to repeat itself. That is why it's important. This is not about stupidity. This is not about nonsensical views. This is about your future. And if you don't make a decision to go out and vote, if you follow some of the hard-headed ones, the stubborn ones, some of them are in the audience, maybe one or two. They know who they are. I'm not going to call their names because I don't want Tony Hack to come after me. Good night to you, Tony. I saw your comment. Tom, this is going to, we are all going to stay up on Tuesday because this is very important. Congresswoman Yvette Clarke was on this program just not so long ago, and she was very passionate. Do you see the senators and the congressmen and women being as passionate as Congresswoman Yvette Clarke in this election?
Well, Yvette, I was so glad that she came on and she was saying what she was saying, because we need more of that. We're not getting as much as we need, unfortunately, right? I think a lot of people are intimidated by the Trump people because he's in this billionaire boys club. All right. And he's backed by some very powerful interests in the media, in the oil and gas sector. And these guys don't play nice. OK, and they will try to ruin your career if they can. And so a lot of people have tried to stay away from being controversial. They've tried to not get out vocally to get people out to vote the way Congresswoman Yvette Clarke did. I praise her every time because she is one of the few members of Congress who actually goes there to do the job. Okay, she does her job, and that's great, but we need more of that, to be honest.
Absolutely, more of that. 26 minutes after 9 o'clock on this Tuesday evening. Good night to all of you, or good morning, wherever you are. Good afternoon. Welcome to Straight Up. My guest this evening, Tom Anderson, no stranger to you guys. We want to hop on the plane. I don't know if Tom has collected his whether he's entitled for 100,000 Guyana dollars and oil money. I'm sure Tom is, but lots of money, cheap money, giving away people's money, and the PVP making it look as though it's their money. But before we get to Guyana, the other question, Tom, Washington Post, the owner, Jeff, decided last minute that the paper, the Washington Post, is not going to endorse Kamala Harris. They're not going to do that, and people are upset. Last I checked, it's almost 300,000+ subscribers have pulled away and said, nope, they are boycotting the Washington Post. Tom, what is your take on that decision not to endorse?
Hey, I'm one of the people who canceled my subscription to the Washington Post. Okay. And so here's what's scary. So for the viewers, the Washington Post is ultimately owned by the billionaire Jeff Bezos. He's the guy who owns Amazon. Exactly. And this was a business decision by another member of the Billionaire Boys Club. Okay. If you look at this guy, he likes to go around the world with his wife, and they've got their surgery and all this stuff going on, and their nice, Fendi bags and their fancy clothes. And this guy thinks like Trump, he's some kind of superstar dude. And so, they're in this little Billionaire Boys Club, and they only know each other. So he knows about Elon Musk, and he knows about Zuckerberg, who owns Facebook, and this is their crew. And when they talk to each other, they talk to Trump, everything makes sense, and they love Trump. So from his perspective, which is a very limited perspective, okay, and these billionaire boys, they think they know it all because they're wealthy, and they've hired a bunch of smart guys to tell them what's going on. but they are actually very clueless. And the sad part is that they have no faith or understanding in the regular people of this world, the normal man. They look at us like dogs. I'm just telling you. And so because of that, he's got the Washington Post. This is his personal newspaper. And he's looking at it like, well, wait a minute. The only person who can run this country is Donald Trump, because Kamala Harris, who is she? She's a woman, first of all. What can a woman do? That's the first thing he's thinking, billionaire boy. And then secondly, she's a woman and she has color in her skin. Oh, gosh, no one's going to listen to her. No one respects her. So from his perspective, this is a bad day in America if a woman with color were to be the president, because he doesn't understand anything else in his world. And there's nothing you can tell him otherwise, because he will just turn around and say, well, I'm a billionaire, so clearly whatever I believe is true. And that's the reality they're in. So he decided to use his newspaper to hurt Kamala Harris and to help Donald Trump. And then he comes out and lies to the world and says, oh, no, I just don't want to be biased. I don't want my paper taking a side. We want to be even-handed. Think about that. So the guy uses his paper to help Trump, and then he has the gall to lie. But this is how the billionaire boys operate, okay? And I will say, this is one of the reasons why I know the PPP so well, because they operate the same way. They may not be the billionaire boys club like these guys here, but it's the same mindset, the same disrespect towards women, the same view of regular average people as dogs to be just run over.
But you know, Tom, there's still some good billionaires that who support the Democrats, who support Kamala Harris. Reed Hastings, the Netflix co-founder, he supports her. You have George and Alex Soros. They support Kamala and the Democrats. And don't forget, you have Melinda French Gates, she supports. You have Sheryl Sandberg, she supports. You have Vinod Khosla. You have, and so the list goes on and on.
That's the boys club. See, so there's a club here. There's a club.
You have the sensible billionaires.
Yes, that aren't in this club.
Billionaires, not the hypocrisy that we see by some of them.
That's right.
Who overstayed in terms of their student visa and all manner of stuff. But you know, the billionaires.
Well, let me tell you this. You have to understand something too, and your listeners should understand this. People like Bezos and Elon Musk and Donald Trump, they view a nation like Guyana as a place to strip for natural resources.
A strip club.
That's it.
We got to be careful. Their view as just to go and to grab and to probably get a table dance, and they left. That's all.
That's it. Yes, and the PPP, they're the party who will facilitate this. This is the point.
The PPP doesn't care. It's all about a hustle.
Right.
If they can sell Guyana out to those guys, they'll do that.
That's it. That's what's going on, and that's what this election's about. And that's why you've got guys like Bezos rigging his paper, because he wants to help these guys strip Guyana of its natural resources. That's what they're trying to do. It's in your face.
And if Trump is elected, definitely it's going to be worse off for Guyanese. Forget about a couple of them in the audience who are a bit stubborn. They are. And where is Tony Hack? He probably got vexed, his bumps raised, and he disappeared. Tony, you've been watching us for a long time. Don't disappear, okay? Don't be a toy soldier and disappear on us tonight. Come on, Tony Hack. Let's head straight to Guyana. Tom, as you know, there's this big controversy. But before we get to the criminal aspect of things and allegations of corruption in that area, just the other day, the question is whether Barra Jagdeo can respond to allegations that he has a bank account in China with billions of US dollars in it. Not hundreds of millions, Tom, but billions of US dollars. And instead of Barra Jagdeo answering the question, as we say in Guyana, his bumps raise. Something happened. And so he couldn't control himself thereafter. And this is how he reacted.
These people
can be vile and nasty. If I tell you what I know of Benchka, it gets sickening. He was the reigning queen in the prison for 3 years. And the thing is that people, the prison officers, people were carrying food, they were trying to smuggle in a wig and lipstick for him there. I know that because I was president, they gave me reports.
Tom, we've got to be realistic. This guy is supposed to be a former president. He sits there as an installed vice president. What is your take? Because you did talk about the Trumpians and these lunatics that we're finding as leaders. And we have lots of them in Guyana too. Jagdeo is just one of them. What is your take on him trying to not answer the question as to whether he has a bank account in China or not, but talking about smuggling wigs and lipsticks into prison, something he should be familiar with?
Well, let me just say, what he is worried about is when someone like Congresswoman Yvette Clarke comes on your show, that's what he doesn't like. Okay. He knows that he has a microscope on him from abroad, from Washington, D.C. They're watching him. He knows it. And he knows that you have people here who come on your show who are connected to the people who watch him. All right. So that's why he's trying to single you out, because he sees you as a threat, because he knows that the one threat to him is the United States of America. That's the threat. And it's not to hurt him or hurt the PPP. No, it's just the United States holding on to our standards and giving the world a view of the reality on the ground in Georgetown throughout the nation of Guyana. That's what he does not need. And so with that said, who is our biggest competitor? China. And wouldn't China want to get in good with a guy like him? Yes, they would. So it wouldn't be surprising if he had a bank account full of cash, because everyone knows that China has gone around the world and through the use of cryptocurrency, they have loaded up boatloads of politicians to be corrupt. Okay. It's almost impossible to track cryptocurrency. And that's usually how they're able to convert. They convert crypto into cash, and it goes into Chinese banks where they can keep an eye on it. And as long as these corrupt politicians stick to what China wants, they have access to that cash. As soon as they don't do what China says, the cash is gone. And that's usually how it goes. So it wouldn't surprise me that he is in such a predicament, because he's the type of person, and the PPP are a type of group that are always trying to do something underhanded, and they're always trying to do something where they're trying to get away with something when the United States is here on the spot saying stop doing it. So that's the issue here, I think.
You know, and Tom, forget about the prison side of things, where he single-handedly, with the help of some of the others, were able to fabricate a trumped-up treason charge against me and locked me away in solitary confinement. Maybe somebody should explain to him what solitary confinement means. It simply means that for the 5+ years that I was there at Camp Street, solitary confinement simply means there was no other person in the cell other than maybe me sending wigs and lipsticks to him, Jagdeo. But it just shows the mindset of the individual, very filthy, dirty mindset. But what we are hearing, though, Tom, is that with the Chinese businesses and the supermarkets that are opening throughout the country, is that Jagdeo has a deal. Jagdeo has a percentage in those businesses. And what he's doing, he's participating in ensuring that Guyanese-owned businesses are bankrupt, run or file for bankruptcy, close down, and leave. It doesn't matter the ethnicity of the Guyanese businesses. And that is what Jagdeo is doing. He is part and parcel of Chinese businessmen going into Guyana, given hundreds of millions of dollars of duty-free concessions. And whereas the locals in Guyana have to pay their fair share of the taxes, but not the Chinese and not some others who are as corrupt as Barra Jagdeo and others in the PPP regime. But Tom, why do you suppose again that he's so worried about this allegations that he has an account in China with billions upon billions of US dollars.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not surprised. Look, man, like I say, he has to get backing from somewhere. He is not going to get total backing from the United States, the type that he's looking for, unless Trump becomes president. Okay. And because of that, he is going to, in order to stay in power, he is going to levitate towards any nation who can prop him up. Okay. And that happens to be China, I believe. Right. And this is how they roll. Now, that's why the people of Guyana have to demand transparency. They have to demand a system of fairness where no politician can come in and rig the game on any level in order to help some outside regime. That should be the case. And I can say, from a Chinese perspective, most likely they would like a situation where the nation of Guyana would be an open, transparent place where they could do fair business. But the problem is the PPP, for whatever reason, they don't have the ability to create the environment of having fair and honest business in that nation for whatever reason. Maybe because they don't want it. To me, it says to me, they just like the corruption and they don't know any other way to operate. And that's very possible, right? Where in some nations, some people from the time they're born to the time that they're 50 years old, the only thing they know is corruption. And I think that's Jagdeo. I think from the time he was born all the way to now, he has only known corruption. And so he can only do corruption. That's it. There's no other way around it. And in that case, if you have China coming in, this is how they're going to roll, because they don't play around and they're going to throw the money around and they're going to do whatever it takes in that country, however it works. And like this guy said in the past, he wants Guyana to be open for business, right? And that's his goal. And if that's the goal with how China operates and with how he has been, which is corrupt forever, this is the situation you get. So yes, he's going to be very upset about any rumors like this. Yes, he's going to lash out and attack, because what he cannot do is do the right thing by the people of Guyana. He doesn't have it in him, I don't believe. I've seen him now for over a decade. I haven't seen once where he can rise above the corruption and actually do what's best for the people of Guyana. I haven't seen it once.
Wouldn't be able to do that at all. Tom, today Bharat Jagdeo met with a couple of folks. He met with the Chinese, top officials of the Chinese, a Chinese delegation that was rushed down into Guyana, along with the Chinese ambassador to Guyana. They met today, and we are seeing these folks meeting with Jagdeo, but they're not meeting with Irfan Ali. A delegation from China, Jiangsu province, led by Mr. Zhu Yan, paid a courtesy call to they installed Vice President Bharat Jagdeo. Joining the meeting was Her Excellency Mistress Guai Huoyan, Ambassador of the Embassy of the People's Republic of China. Are you surprised that this meeting has taken place even right after serious allegations that he has a bank account in China?
I mean, that's why it's going to take place now. And look, they are probably planning for what they feel is going to be the next administration of the United States. So, whatever their spies are telling them about what's going to happen in our election, they are moving. And yes, a nation like Guyana is important to the United States now. I've been saying this for a long time. Some commenters saying, oh, Guyana is nothing. It used to be that Guyana was no big deal. Okay, not any longer. And so, yeah, I can see how the Chinese would be coming in now, because our election is about to occur. And depending on what happens here, things will change in Guyana drastically one way or the other. And China wants to get out ahead of it. And they're working with their guy Jagdeo, apparently, to get it done.
How important is it that the Chinese, assuming that Bharat has a bank account, a hefty bank account with billions of US dollars, how important it is for the Chinese to continue to protect him and his bank account? And therefore, Jagdeo, will have to give the Chinese whatever they want in Guyana.
I mean, that's how, this is how the Chinese have to roll right now in this part of the world, right? They have to go in and they've got to find people who are corruptible, and they've got to get in on them big time and give them whatever they ask for, whatever money they want, because China needs especially the oil. They need it. If you look at their nation, that's the one thing they lack. They don't have access to oil, man. They have to buy it up. And so Guyana now is a new place that they can get a boatload of oil from. They can run that oil through the Panama Canal straight to Beijing, straight through. Okay, so it's huge. And that also then makes it huge for us, right? So this is a big deal. They are going to do whatever it takes to make sure they have a pipeline of oil leaving Guyana through the Panama Canal to Beijing, and they will spend any amount of money to do it. And apparently Jagdeo is their guy.
Tom, if you can take a look at this photograph. It's not on Irfan Ali's page or any one of those others, but Jagdeo posted this on his page. He alone sitting there meeting with the Chinese delegations. Just Bharat Jagdeo sitting there alone. For optics' sake, how does this appear, Tom?
Well, you have to look at it this way too, right? So I was one of the people, well, I was actually the first person to expose that the Chinese have secret police stations in the United States. I found the first one in New York City.
Okay, but you know, a lot of people don't know that, Tom, that you were the one that actually broke that story.
Yes, I was the one. That's right. And yes. And so when he's meeting with these delegations, Jagdeo, what the Chinese are trying to do is they're trying to set up police stations in Guyana. They're going to set up all kinds of operations there to terrorize the people of Guyana. I'm just letting you know, because that's what they do here in the United States. They terrorize people here. Okay. So our Justice Department has had to chase these people down, kick them out of the country. I mean, it's out of control. Once you start letting the Chinese in the way he is, you have to be very careful. Now, the problem is Guyana doesn't have any transparency. So you have a situation here where the Chinese can come in and they can basically take over and no one can say a word because there isn't a system in place to push back on what these guys do. So I would be very, very weary and I would have my eyes open on this because, like I said, they have opened up secret police stations here in the United States and they have used their agents to go after American citizens like it's nothing. Okay. If they do that to us, you can imagine what they're going to be doing in Guyana.
And just imagine the CCTV cameras that are installed there in Georgetown and other places. While Jagdeo, they might be happy telling people that the CCTV cameras are in certain spots to prevent crimes. It is not just there to prevent crimes. It is there to spy on citizens. And if they check who were the folks who installed, where those CCTV cameras came from, who installed those CCTV cameras, you'll know exactly that the image that they pick up on those cameras, they're able to, the biometrics that they pick up, they're able to tell every single thing. And those are not just cameras there to prevent crimes. They are cameras there to spy on citizens in Guyana, spy on people in Guyana. Tom, talk to us about that. You're saying yes.
Because you have to look at how they treat their own people, how they treat other nations. Okay, they've been in Ireland, putting police stations in Ireland. They've been in their own nation. Look at how they handled COVID. They were welding their own citizens into their apartments and didn't let them out. There were people screaming for help, okay, locked up, and they don't give a damn. They will send drones out for you. Like, this is how they operate. They operate with an iron fist, and they rely heavily on technology like cameras and biometrics to spy on everyone in order to control the population, regardless of what the nation's government wants. This is what they do. They basically create a shadow government of spies within these nations that they come into and start putting businesses in. Now, I'm not being anti-Chinese. I'm just telling you, this is how they operate. This is how they operate. And for people in the Western world, this is not what we do. Okay. And so what they're trying to do is use people like Jagdeo to normalize this, to make it so that the people of Guyana will be okay with being spied on 24/7, being welded into their homes, and you can't go out until the government lets you go out. This is how they want to rule everywhere they have business. And if you do not have government officials in place to stand up for yourself, they will take over your country and they will have all of your citizens basically like slaves.
You know, someone asked whether the cameras came from China. Let's just say that this happened back in, of course, a few years ago. Another batch of closed-circuit television, CCTV cameras, will be installed at critical locations in a bid to fight the high crime rate while monitoring suspicious activities. And so the cameras came, and in fact, they were installed by Huawei. They're the ones who did the installation, Huawei Technologies. And so you know a little bit about the Huawei, right?
That's right.
Tom?
So Huawei, you have to understand, a lot of their technology has come from an American, okay, a Black American who now is in Beijing. Okay, he's a huge communist, and he actually funds communist operations in the United States. For example, the group Code Pink, he's married to one of the co-founders of Code Pink, and he now bankrolls. If you look at Code Pink, okay, they no longer do any type of protests that China doesn't like. They've taken the group over, okay? And so this is how, I'm telling you, this is how they operate. I'm not being anti-Chinese. I'm just saying, from our perspective in the West, we don't, even if you're not American, we are not used to being spied upon and being told when we can eat, what we can do, what we can say. We're not being spied on our phones. We're not, the Chinese spy on everything and everyone. If you go on social media and you say the wrong thing, they're coming for you. Okay. And this is what they transport around the world. And they expect the leaders of countries where they're coming in to do business, like the way they are in Guyana, they expect these leaders to force the population to abide by Chinese culture, which is you're going to be spied on and you're going to be controlled no matter what you say. And that is a problem in the West. And these corrupt politicians, they want the money and they think that they can implement this. But I'm telling you, it's only going to lead to chaos. It's going to lead to a lot of problems because people in the New World, in the Western world, we are not okay with that culture of spy on everything and tell everyone what to think and what to do and what to say. That's not how we roll.
Absolutely. Dennis Atwell has made a point here. Good night to Dennis Atwell. It says, in other words, when the people of Guyana think that the police watching them, the Chinese government watching you from way in China. Way in China, I think, Dennis, yes, you understand what's happening. The spy network is huge. It's big in Guyana, and it's basically, it's just not safe. Because you look at it from the standpoint, the CCTV cameras can be deactivated, as we're hearing. Whenever certain crimes are about to happen, the CCTV cameras are deactivated. Whenever certain crimes occur, the CCTV cameras disappear, or they just remove whatever footage is on those cameras. So it's being used to hurt the Guyanese population. It's not being used to do anything good. However, they pretend as though it's just crime fighting, when in fact it's not. And Tom is correct. We are pointing these things out based on what is happening in Guyana and what's happening in America as well. With the I don't know if many of you remember not so long ago the stories of illegal police station in New York City. Tom, how that happened, man? Illegal police station in New York City. How the heck that happened?
Well, Mayor Adams, okay, and before him, the previous admin. So the Chinese got in good with the police, the New York City police. And they basically were allowed by the police to create their own police outside of American authorities, man. And so if you look at Mayor Adams, for example, he's been indicted. A lot of his staffers have been indicted. And you'll notice it's Chinese, okay? People who have been influential in the Chinese business community in New York City, they are indicted with him, Okay, because for ever since, and this is before he was mayor, they have been linked up with him going back to when he was a state senator. Okay, and so that's how they work, is that they load his staff up. They were influencing him from back then, and what they do is once they get their hooks into these politicians, they then put their own police stations in, and no one says a word, because the way they do it, the way I found it was, I went onto Chinese websites and I was going searching searching their websites in Chinese for, hey, are there police stations in New York City? And lo and behold, they were advertising in China to their citizens in China, hey, if you have a problem in New York City, don't go to the cops. Go to our Chinese police station. Here's the address and here's the phone number. And I was blown away. This is what they do. And they have police stations, not just in New York City, in other places throughout the country, also in Europe, all over the place. This is, I'm telling you, this is really, really bad. And the thing is, our politicians don't tell the Chinese that this is bad. What they do is they accept the cash and they tell them, don't worry, the people will be okay with your secret police. We'll just shut them all down. And if anyone tries to blow the whistle, we'll throw them in jail. And so that's why you have Jagdeo so confident, right? Because the way he sees it is, if anyone in Guyana tries to say a word about China and what they're doing, he'll just throw you in jail. And then what can you do? And so this is how they're operating. This is how they do business. I disagree with it. Me even calling it out, they would probably get mad at me. He's anti-Chinese. I am not anti-Chinese. I love the Chinese people. I absolutely love the Chinese people. What I have a problem with is their communist government when they extend outside of China. They can be communist in China, but when they start having secret police stations in my homeland, attacking U.S. citizens, and when they go through other countries in the Western world and they're corrupting politicians, that is beyond the pale. And someone has to say something. And unfortunately, everyone is quiet because a lot of people are taking Chinese cash, and it's behind the scenes.
56 minutes after 9 o'clock. Tom, I want you to take a look at this and let's talk about it. Another meeting took place today. Air Finale wasn't part of the meeting. Air Finale is being shut out. We see Jagdeo alone. What is, I mean, for optics' sake, we do not see the Minister of Foreign Affairs at all at these meetings. No Minister of Foreign Affairs. And if you want to walk with somebody, the Minister of Foreign Affairs. Or in the case of security matters, the minister, if he is still alive, the Minister of Home Affairs. We don't see anybody. Jagdeo again, alone. This time, Tom, it says here the install or whatever vice president engaged a U.S. senior Senate staffer delegation today. The team included J.C. Jane, listen to the names, senior foreign policy advisor for Senator Tim Kaine, Mr. Victor Cerveno, senior advisor on Western Hemisphere and international law enforcement, and Mr. Andy Olson, deputy staff director for Senate Foreign Relations. Again, foreign relations here. Also part of the meeting were Adriana Galanek, deputy chief of mission at the United States Embassy, and others from the U.S. Embassy, but nothing, no other person from Guyana, the installed regime. Just Jagdeo again. No Minister of Foreign Affairs, no Minister of Home Affairs, just Jagdeo again. Tom, talk to us, please, sir.
Yeah, I would say from our perspective, right, what we are doing is we're dealing with whoever we feel is in charge over there. So if all these people are meeting with only Jagdeo, what it's saying is we feel like he's the guy who's in charge. That's what it says to me, right? So, and from my perspective from the outside, that's what it looks like to me. I've always viewed it as, well, Jagdeo is really the guy in charge and Irfan Ali is sort of like the puppet guy. And I don't like to call people puppets because I actually look at what Irfan Ali is doing, and look, he's serving his people. Okay, when you hold office, you are a servant. Okay, and I give credit to anyone who is a servant to the people. And so I don't like to call him a puppet, but in this situation, I looked at it and I was like, oh, this doesn't look good. It looks like Jagdeo is behind the scenes running everything. And Irfan Ali is sort of like the guy, the black guy they put out there to say, look, we're okay. That's what it looks like to be, right? And so this just confirms that our government is looking to Jagdeo as the guy who's in charge. Okay. And when you look at stuff like the senior advisor on Western Hemisphere and international law enforcement, right? That is someone who is, if they're speaking to Jagdeo, what they're talking about is the gold smuggling. They're talking about the drug smuggling. They're talking about the weapons, the laundering of money. Like that's what that guy is talking to Jagdeo about, right? And so if that guy, and that's what he's in charge of, is looking after the laundering of money and trying to stop, the smuggling of gold, and they're meeting with Jagdeo and no one else, that means that the only person that we feel can deal with that stuff is Jagdeo. And that's the position he's put himself in, apparently.
All right, it doesn't look good. A one-man show, and we're aware, of course, the U.S. government and law enforcement agencies probably do not trust Jagdeo at all. Let's move as we prepare to wrap up the situation with the senior cop in Guyana, 240 charges. It's Brutus. Lots and lots of allegations of ministers being involved in $1 million of contract deals with the police consumer affairs, lots and lots of corruption. Not only allegations of corruption stopped with Brutus, the senior cop, but high-level members of Jagdeo's regime. Tom, your take on the Guyana police force and corruption?
Well, like I said, and I will always say this, man. I have, I feel so bad for law enforcement in a nation like Guyana, because, and I know people go, what? These guys are bad guys. Nah, man, I feel bad for them because they are in an impossible situation. They have to hold the line between chaos and order. That's what they are, okay? And when you have to hold that line and above you are a bunch of corrupt politicians, it's almost an impossible job, man. And so in a nation like Guyana, lives are on the line. People disappear, people die. It's scary stuff, man. So like I look at law enforcement in a nation like Guyana and I pray for your country. I pray for the people of Guyana. I feel bad because it's an untenable position. The law enforcement, especially the good ones, are being asked to do an impossible job. And it's really, really sad. So that's my view on law enforcement in Guyana. I feel really bad. I pray for the nation because those are the guys who have to be the ones who are there for the everyday average man. They are on the ground. That's who they are there for. Okay. And that's what they're supposed to be there for. But when you have a nation where the politicians are so corrupt, it makes it almost impossible for the police and for law enforcement to do a proper job for the people.
Well said, Tom Anderson. Before we go, were you surprised? I'm sure you saw the news that the senior police officer, Brutus, in the police compound, that's where his apartment is. His apartment was surrounded by members of the SWAT team looking to search his property. Members of the SWAT. Talk to us, please, Tom.
Yeah, I mean, this is, and there's no way, because of the corruption in the political structure, it's really hard to know who is doing what. As a matter of fact, everyone may be a little bit dirty, because how can you be law enforcement in a place where the corruption has been there for so long and you not get your hands dirty? Because if you're the one with the clean hands, then everyone knows you're the one who can tell on everyone. And so maybe that person, the one with the clean hands, disappears. And so there has to be tremendous pressure on everyone to have to go along to get along in law enforcement. So it's a really sad situation. So it's very hard to understand what's going on here. But I can tell you, when you see stuff like this, very worrisome, very worrisome.
All right, we have Francine Cruz and others. Francine says, Tom, I always love your Annalisa. You're always on point. I bet Francine Cruz, good night, ma'am. I bet she meant analyze, how you analyze things. But that's okay. It's a typo, Francine Cruz. And to all of you guys, Andrea D is saying, what a joke. What a joke. A big joke indeed. Tom, as we prepare to wrap up tonight's program, I know lots and lots of folks are preparing to go out and vote in the United States of America. And go out in your numbers, guys. Pennsylvania, keep an eye on Pennsylvania and other places. Your closing remarks, Tom. And
Well,
I know you're watching into Guyana. I think I saw your hand raising up for that 100,000, which is just about 400 something US dollars. Another big bribery scheme there. I don't know, Tom. Your closing remarks, please, sir.
Yeah, I think getting back to the voting, it's so important that people vote, because as we talk about all these subjects and all these topics, the one consistent force, the one power that the people have is to vote. And so people, I think now in the more modern world we live in now, because of information, we all have to be able to analyze what's going on, and we have to be able to vote with our conscience, regardless of regardless of the politician's party. Okay, we have to be able to look honestly at who that is running and what it is that they stand for in their platform, and how does that apply to our lives, right? We have to be able to do that. And once we do that, we then have to go out and vote, and we have to talk to other people to vote, because that's the only way the average person can make a change and a difference in the structure that is up above them in our type of government here in the Western world, both in Guyana and the United States. And so, yes, there are other things you can do. So people can be a government watchdog like me. You can go even further, right? That takes a lot of studying and time and research and stuff. But the basic thing that we all have to do is we have to vote, right? And you have to get your friends and family to vote. And you have to be able to, if you need to, cross party lines and vote for the other side if you have to, if it's what's best for you and your family. Okay. And so when you go, we're having our election now in the United States. Guyana will be having theirs soon. If you're someone in the PPP, you're a PPP voter, and that's who you vote for all the time. It's time that those people start to reevaluate the situation. Why? Because no matter how you look at it, the nation of Guyana is in a new place and in a new reality. And in that new reality, the most dangerous thing to the people of Guyana is a strong man. That's what you cannot have. And so maybe it's time that the people who usually vote for the PPP, maybe you should not vote for them, because you can see that a man like Jagdeo is angling to be some type of strong man. And nations like China would like that. Okay. And I got to say, even in our nation, there are Americans who would like that, because it becomes easier to deal with the people of Guyana. So when the people of Guyana have a problem with America or with China, and they scream out and they call out for help, if there's a strong man there, that strong man can silence the people, right? And so what the people of Guyana need is they need a representative government. They need leadership, regardless of party, that cannot be strong men, that make it so that the people's voice can be heard, and that nations like the United States and China have to respond to the people and not the strong man with his hand out looking for cash.
Well said, Tom. People in the PPP are urged to cross over and vote against the PPP. And I tell you what, Tom, thousands upon thousands of PPP folks are fed up and are tired of the PPP. They're tired of that strong man, and I feel very uncomfortable describing Jagdeo as such. But in this situation, a strong man has a different definition. So, strong man. This is what this lady and thousands of people are saying in Guyana.
Yeah, my name is Jagdeo Caldata, Francis Vietnam, and since 1965, I become a voter. And I always place my ex next to the cup. And what they are doing today, I can't take it. So I have no more vote to give to PPP anymore. I'm not going to vote anymore on the moon. If they have to lose by one vote, they're losing it by data.
If they have to lose by one vote, Tom, they're losing that one vote by data. And so, Guyanese, you've got to wake up. Do not allow that strong man. As Gary Greenidge says, it's another term for a dictator. Another term for a dictator, because it's difficult to look at Jagdeo and really describe him as a strong man. Some of you might have a different meaning, because when I was growing up, people said, Mark is a strong man. My Mark's strong, right? That's not what we're talking about when it comes to Jagdeo. Isn't it pretty obvious? Now, Tom, before we go, I noticed somebody earlier talking about is Tom Guyanese? You just have an interest in Guyana. You've been looking into Guyana for so many years, and that's we have so much that we can talk about. Maybe we can write a book together, because you're writing a book.
Absolutely.
You're now teaching at the university. All manner of things happening to you, Tom.
Yeah. I'm blessed, and the people of Guyana are blessed. I feel sad that the blessings that the people of Guyana have are being siphoned away by dictator type people, right? But that can change. And what it takes is for some vision and for some love and for people to stay focused and concentrated and to vote. And with that said, you can see there's someone here. I think it was Mr. Zebuya Yisrael. He says it's so sad that the Guyanese folks have to depend on what happens in America for them to enjoy their country. Very, very sad. Well, the truth is, right, is that the EU have to depend on our elections. That other nations, the Russia, the Ukraine is depending upon us. If our elections go towards Trump, Ukraine will no longer be a nation. They will be dissolved. Okay. And then there will be a war with Poland immediately from there. Right. And so a lot depends on what happens in America. And it's not a sad thing. It's the way of the world. And this is how it works now, right? With technology, everyone's so interconnected. And that's why you see me, an American, on a Guyanese radio show, because what happens here does affect Guyana. But guess what? What happens in Guyana affects what happens here in my home in America. Huge. That's why I have an interest in Guyana, because I've seen the effect that the nation of Guyana has had on America, both good and bad. We've had some bad stuff, but also a lot of good things that the people of Guyana have brought to the table here in the United States. So it's actually a beautiful thing that we all can share this together, of different governments, of different peoples from around the world. That's a good thing. What we have to do is continue to talk to each other, continue to share knowledge with each other, and we should all be acting in concert for our interests as regular, normal people against the interests that are evil out here in this world. And there are evil interests, but we don't have to be scared of them. We don't have to be upset with them. We don't have to say it's sad. What we have to do is group together in love and go out as a group to put down our foot in our statement to say, this is what we believe in. And when we do that in numbers, no matter what country we're from, it works. It works. I've seen it. And that's what matters. And that's what I'm here to do.
Thank you so much, Tom. Again, you've done a lot. One of these days, the Guyanese folks will know exactly how much you have done. And on behalf of all of them, most of them or all of them who don't know what you have done, I'm thanking you for what you have done and what you've been doing over the past 15 years of our friendship as you have been looking into Guyana. One of these days, we'll reveal some of those things in a book, but just not yet. Tom, thank you so much again. And I'm setting your schedule for you. See you back next Monday.
All right. I'll be back next Monday, guys.
In the US next Monday, right here on 107.1 FM. Thank you so much, guys. Thank you, Commissioner Paul. Thank you, Eon Williams, and all of you. Thank you so much. So long, Tom.
Take care, guys.
Yeah. You know, as Tom was talking about strong man, right? You guys know what was going through my mind, right? Impossible. that bank account in China, billions upon billions upon billions of dollars. That bank account in China, guys, that bank account in China is hurting this strong man. We've got to put a smile on our face, on our faces, right? Hey guys, I've got to go. I know you guys like the strong man, right? But maybe I should get into the wig business and lipstick business. My biggest supplier, my biggest customer is right there on the screen. The biggest customer, Lalita, or Lilawati, right? Oh, Lilawati. Anyways, guys, I'm out of here. I'll be back tomorrow. Same place, same time. God bless you. And continue to pray for Guyana. Continue to keep hope alive, guys. There's that light at the end of the tunnel. No to the PPP. No to Barrett Jagdeo. We're out of here.
Sit there and fabricate that. Unless you say who the person is, I can't comment on anonymous people.
Okay, well, let's talk about specific individuals. What is your relationship with Mr. Su Jurong?
Su? Oh, Su.
I can't take it no more. I can't take it no more. Can't take it no more. Imagine 18 hours of blackout, and you're telling people progress. Cost of living gone up 100%, yet you give public servant less. Mr. President, listen to the people. Search your soul and you will confess. And while you try surviving on the public base, then you're gonna know but stress. Cause I done fed up, you done fed up, he done fed up, she done fed up, we done fed up, the people fed up. You're hiding corruption inside the cup, look how evil set up. The people fed up. They don't drive no fair with the citizen. They may want the people speak out. Freedom of speech done gone inside the gutter. Knock off when you open your mouth. Discrimination in entertainment, and you're talking about one Guyana. When the Ministry of Culture keep the big shows, one set of girls and banner. Cause I done fed up, you done fed up, he done fed up, she done fed up, we done fed up, the people fed up. You're hiding corruption inside the cup, look how evil set up. The people fed up. Every picture you take and promise you make, everything you do is about clouds. Then you come into me for I shake your hand, there's nothing to smile about. Corruption inside every sector, but when it comes to them, they send you. Try investigate efficiency, right? Go talk to Barrett and Sue, cause I done fed up, you done fed up, he done fed up, she done fed up, we done fed up, the people fed up. You're hiding corruption inside the cup, look how evil set up. The people
Sit there and fabricate that. Unless you say who the person is, I can't comment on anonymous people.
Okay, well, let's talk about specific individuals. What is your relationship with Mr. Su Jurong?
Su? Oh, Su? My relationship?